All right. Okay. Hello. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Please confirm if the audio video is all right. Happy Dashera to everyone. As usual, this is session 12 of Ask Me Anything at FinTree. We'll be following the same process. I will first be answering all the questions that we have on the comments from the previous AMA session. And once those questions have dried out, then I will be taking some of the live questions on the YouTube chat box. Right? That's the process. So with this, let's start. Let's start with question number one, sequentially. These are questions from the YouTube comments of the AMA 11 session. First one is from Rasmeet Singh. Hi Utkarsh, when I open LinkedIn for connections, job search, etc., it seems everyone has achieved a lot. It makes you very underconfident. How to stand out, how to cope up with this? I'm the only one who feels this after opening LinkedIn. Yeah, Rasmeet, I've spoken about my views on LinkedIn multiple times. Honestly, to me, LinkedIn looks like some sort of a cringe fest. It's a place for people to get validation. They will write good shit about themselves, and then a bunch of people go and say, "Hey, congratulations, great job done," and all of it. And I also congrats people. But it's fine, like I think LinkedIn profiles are honestly over glorified. You see the same LinkedIn guy in person, you're like, "Hey, you're that guy who's got that profile." So don't obsess over others, right? And again, the simple rule is your comparison is always with yourself, not with someone else. Just make progress. Like you have your goal, make progress. You'll be okay. All right, Nayan Yadav. Last Saturday, you advised someone how to fully immerse themselves in finance, saying start breathing in finance. I'd love to know how to actually do that. Could you recommend what to read, watch, who to follow? I understand pursuing CFA is beneficial, but having a daily routine to engage in finance would be great. Any suggestions? So, Nayan, see, what I was trying to say is it should be there, like in your thought process all the time. For example, let's say you walk into a coffee shop, right? Are you thinking about how the business model is, what's the average revenue per customer, per table, like what's the revenue metric? So a lot of these type of things. And your question is essentially about having the mind share, right? How do I think of finance all the time? Is by spending a lot of time studying and reading. That's how it comes, right? It comes over a period of time. When you build interest, you start understanding. It's like how video games are. You start playing, if it's too difficult, you lose interest. If it's too easy, you lose interest. It has to have the right level of difficulty. So you want to design that for yourself. Kya kar sakta hai? Like what can you do? Maybe a good starting point is start reading some interesting books on finance. Which books would I recommend? So within finance, there are so many different genres of books, right? So you pick a little bit of something. For example, if you want to read on risk management, read Fooled by Randomness. It's a phenomenal book, right? Love it. The book basically says everything in life and in investing is random, and we feel I'm smart, but it was all randomness. So maybe read a little bit of Taleb. For investing, I always recommend read Peter Lynch, read Howard Marks, read Warren Buffett literature. A lot of those letters are available. For general finance, like a broad perspective, good book called Psychology of Money. You can start there. I can keep on going, right? Thousands of books. If you want to read some stories, read this interesting book called Flash Crash. On venture capital, there is Parla. There are so many books, right? So you start spending some time reading every day. Parallelly, what you should also do is try and read some of the conference calls of companies. Even if you're not an equity person, I think conference calls are a phenomenal source to learn. If I want to learn what's happening in the banking space in India, all that I need to do is go and participate in HDFC Bank con call. If not live, listen to the recording. Right? These guys have what? Like 37 odd percent share in the private banking world, 15% market share in the total banking in India. So read about. Can you guys confirm if my audio is alright? Is it not? Here is my. Can you please confirm if the audio is okay? Is it? Uh, it's alright, right? Okay, good. So hopefully that answers your question on how to start, like being the finance person all the time. I think stocks is a great way to start, by the way, in finance. The too much of echo out. Let me fix the audio. I think I made some mistake with my settings. Alright, give me a minute. Let me see if I can do something else. Okay, I think I figured the problem. Alright, echo should be gone now. Has it gotten better? Hoping the audio quality is good now. All right, so we'll continue with the questions. Apologies for that. Second, Nayan Yadav, could you explain the difference between a fund manager and a portfolio manager? Are they distinct from each other? See, Nayan, हम क्या करते हैं ना? We use these terms interchangeable generally. But I'll tell you, a fund manager basically means you're a part of the asset management industry, right? Maybe I can write this and explain better. Give me a minute. Let me try and explain to you how to think about this. This is just some screen from my earlier class. Let's have a blank page for us. Okay. So the way you want to think is think of asset management industry broken down into, or the whole portfolio management landscape is broken down into manufacturing and distribution, right? So what do you mean by that? So let's think HDFC mutual funds. Let's think ICICI, mutual funds, right? Let us think Parag Parikh mutual funds. Now, what are these guys doing? These guys are getting money and they're managing their products, right? So these are your manufacturers. So you think of asset management companies, you think of them as manufacturers. Now, this is the end investor. Now, investor has a lot of choices, right? They can buy HDFC, ICICI. So typically, one of the two routes, some of them will go to a distributor, right? And distributor will tell them, okay, I think you should buy a little bit of HDFC, and maybe you should also have, some Parag Parikh or, Aditya Birla and so on, right? So these guys are distributor who are looking at clients' money and advising them. So generally, the fund managers here, okay, the correct way to call these people should be the fund manager. And that kind of makes sense. So when I say a fund manager, these are the guys who are on the manufacturing side. These are the people who are managing money for you. That's the thought process. But then who are a distributor, right? So I would call these guys more as portfolio managers. Because think of what a typical distributor is doing or an investment advisor is doing. They're looking at client and they're taking two decisions for the client. Okay, now as per SEBI guidelines, a distributor is not supposed to do it, but in practice, that's what is happening today. What are the two decisions? The first decision I take for the client is asset allocation, right? So I say that, okay, this client maybe is a risk averse client, risk nahi le sakta. So maybe I should park 50% of the money in bonds and 40% money in equities, maybe 10% money in gold. So decision number one, asset allocation. Then decision number two is basically asset selection, right? So asset selection means within bonds, maybe let me go and buy, State Bank of India ETF on government bonds. Within equities, let's buy, direct stocks, or let's buy some equity mutual fund, right? Whatever company. So that's your asset selection. So when you're doing this under whatever legal framework, RI, distributor, then you're more of a portfolio manager. Versus if you're just managing equities or managing funds, on behalf of the client here, then technically you're a fund manager. Though in practice, we do use these terms interchangeably, right? But hopefully that gives you some perspective on how to think about this. Okay, all right. Next question is from Taresh Verma. Taresh, hi Utkarsh. Yesterday results came out. I've cleared level 2. Congratulations, Taresh. Great achievement. Once you pass level 2, more or less, it's given that you would be a charter holder someday, right? Provided you pass level 3 and get your experience. I've decided to go with portfolio management pathway, can use official curriculum book instead of Schwezer notes. I've used Schwezer notes, but I want to get immersed in level 3 syllabus. That's my official book. So even if I decide to attempt Feb 26, those book would still help me write because I assume level 3 doesn't change much like level 1. All right. So Tarish, your question is simple. Your question, if I could reframe, uh, is CFA curriculum worth it? Should I be reading CFA curriculum or should I be reading some third-party prep provider notes? And I would say CFA curriculum is absolutely 10 on 10, right? There are some weak areas in the curriculum, but in general, just the thought process, right? We spend money, we buy some books so that we learn finance. CFA Institute spends millions of dollars every year to build this CFA curriculum. So it's a beautiful piece of work, finely crafted. There are weaknesses, but that's with all the books. Editorial job is difficult. So I strongly encourage people to start reading curriculum at CFA level 1 itself. Okay, if you've not read, you want to do it now, level 3, that's perfectly fine, but do it. It will definitely help. And I don't think there's a dramatically very large time investment difference between reading some private notes and curriculum once you know the concept. So if you have access to some videos karo, then you read CFA curriculum. That will make your life easy. You don't even have to defer your attempt, right? November, August next year is doable. Saurabh, um, hi. How will de-dollarization and the rise of BRICS nation, including introduction of BRICS currency, impact finance industry in terms of pay scale, job roles, client outsourcing, inflation in the US, valuation of Indian rupee? Saurabh, that's that's a great question, and honestly, I don't know the answer, but I'll tell you what I know or what I think of. So, सबसे पहले, what is de-dollarization, right? In fact, let's go back a little bit in the history. So, you'd be surprised to know uh, until World War II, okay, the the center of economic dominance in the world was Europe, not US, right? You kind of know that, right? So until let's say 1945-ish, the the currency of the world or the economy of the world, the dominant economy was European economies. However, a lot of these European countries were hurt and bleeding after World War II. And around the same time, if you've heard, we had this Bretton Woods conference, right, in the US. And that's where there was some sort of a regime change, right? The regime which made US dollars very dominant, very powerful. And since 1945-ish, we've been living in this dollarization world of sorts. Now, what do you mean by dollarization? So dollar is the de facto currency, and dollar is probably like the important currency. US dollar is also held by a lot of other countries as a part of their reserves. China holds it, US, India holds it, right? A lot of countries. Now, de-dollarization means countries saying, okay, let's not give US dollar so much of importance. Let's, let's use our own currency for foreign trade, right? So if India wants to buy, let's say, oil from some of the Middle Eastern countries, can we do that transaction in Indian rupees as against US dollar? If China wants to hold certain reserves, can we do it in some other currencies and not US dollar? That's called de-dollarization. Now, BRICS, was so your I what I think of what will happen with de-dollarization, right? So I feel at least in the next 10, 15, 20 years, and I could be wrong, but I don't think that US dollar is losing its dominance. See, this de-dollarization is not a new thing. It has been happening for ages, right? So we're hearing the story now, uh, especially after the whole Russia-Ukraine thing that happened. But ये de-dollarization की बात पिछले 15, 20, 25 सालों से चल ही रही है, right? There have been talks about de-dollarization. So I don't think it's happening anytime soon. And if it happens, it's a complete regime shift, right? Because the center of economic dominance will move from US. Today we call US as the mother market. जो भी US में होता है, it reflects everywhere in the world, right? Now, if the center of economic dominance shift elsewhere, then we're completely living in a new regime, and I really cannot visualize how things will turn out. So I don't know what will be the impact on inflation, salaries, but I feel it's very far-fetched. I don't think it's happening at least anytime soon. Things change in economics. You should never say never. But अभी तो नहीं लग रहा है, Saurabh. All right, next question. Brainstorming with Yesh. Hi, Utkarsh. You said in the last video, salespeople get paid more than equity analysts. And after doing L1, how can they get into equity sales? What's the roadmap? Yeah, देखो first break brainstorming with Yesh is always tough. मतलब it's purely networking. आपको institutional sales में जाना है, institutional dealer बनना है वो, right? The only way to get in is to know people, network, keep on applying. What's the typical roadmap in terms of sales? So बहुत सारे तरीके हैं. You can get into sales of financial products. You can do a B2B sale, B2C sale, right? Variety of different sales. So you'll need a little more nuanced approach in terms of what area within that you want to explore. In general, any role in finance which is client facing will have an element of sales, right? So front office investment banking sounds fancy, but आप बेच रहे हो, right? You're selling. Institutional sales of equities, you're selling. B2B sales for asset management companies where you're selling distributors. B2C, you're selling individual clients. Private wealth, some way you're designing portfolios, but you're also selling, right? So that's the way to think. Sushil. Sushil says, yeah, interesting question. Huh? Hello, Utkarsh, geopolitics guy again. You advise me keeping my end goal in some sort of a macro hedge fund in the US. Not to my surprise, I almost only listen to macro hedge fund manager podcasts while in the gym or walk. So that's sorted for me. I never like stock specific talks. ठीक है. I have a few questions regarding this path, though. Should I pursue masters in international relation economics or typical MBA from B school in US, UK? How the work ex as market risk analyst before going? How AI proof is? How AI proof is it? I saw a day in my life of New Yorker market risk analyst. Sounds fun. Doesn't focus on macro. I don't know how they work in India. बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस है और बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस का आंसर नहीं है सुशील. सी fooled by randomness, right? It's like a man plans and God laughs. है ना? So it's a little bit like that. You you have to have a general direction in terms of where you want to take your life and career. It cannot be very specific at this moment because there are too many unknown variables right now. So I remember the previous conversation. You said I like geopolitics, and therefore I want to explore that and finance. And I recommended you macro hedge funds. Now, the way to do this is to go to US, and like eventually, if you find it in India, fantastic. Learn some program either on economics or even a MBA in finance will do the job, right? And then start applying to a lot of these roles. See, it doesn't always have to be a hedge fund. There are a lot of traditional asset managers who are also very macro driven. So in India, we have few, like in the US, we know Harvard Marks and so many of these guys, right? Who have a very high macro focus. Also remember, if you're a macro guy, it does not mean you should not listen to stock specific commentary. There is this concept called the blended approach where you use top down and you use bottom up, both macros as well as stock specific. Because at the end of the day, it's important for you to know how macros will affect an individual company. So read a lot of different economic books, read about different hedge funds, figure out a good university in the US to do your education, and then try and build from there. In terms of how whether market risk knowledge will be useful, I think so to some extent. I mean, it's not relevant, but it's not irrelevant as well. How AI proof it is, किसी को पता नहीं है. Uh, AI proof, chasing I think it's not a work of sanity. The solution to making yourself AI proof is to basically keep on learning and try to get into profile where you have a behavioral advantage over a data advantage, right? So the way to think is like historically, finding data of companies was a big statistical advantage because the data was not available. Then we came to into a phase where data was available, but analysis was not available. So analysis was an advantage, right? So now data is available, analysis is available, but now what advantage exists in the market is basically a behavioral advantage, right? Behavioral advantage basically means can I have like that EQ, what we call, right? Basic greed, fear, emotions, can I deal with that? So AI proof ka wahi tarika hai, to keep on learning and then just be agile, see what's happening in the market, and then take bets accordingly. Next question, growth with finance. Hello, sir. My question is, after completing CFA, can I assume that once I start, I will master markets or mastering markets? What should I do? Read. Grow up with finance, read. No, just by passing level one, you are not a master of markets. You're nowhere close to master of markets. I've passed, fortunately, all the three exams of CFA a long time back. I've been in the markets for good 14, 15 years. Uh, I would rate myself as 0.01% closer to what master of markets are, right? It's a profession where you have to learn all your life. Generally, we say that you have to see at least two complete business cycles to understand, how to think in markets. So, मैंने भी अभी तक शायद 1.5 साइकिल देखा है, 1.5 या 2 साइकिल, है ना? So मैं भी सीख रहा हूँ, and some of the things you learn, by doing things and experiencing it. So mastery थोड़ा दूर आएगा, but हाँ, you can definitely start walking on that path. Okay, let me move towards the bottom of the comment section now to answer. Sumit, I'm appearing for level one this November. I have MBA from Tier 2 college, 10 years in middle office investment bank, 5 years in India, 5 years in UK. How should I plan my career? Which profile should I be targeting? Sumit, थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा information लगेगा आप किस profile में हो, what type of company you work with, what skill sets you bring on the table. That will help me better. But again, in general, if you have 10 years of experience, I always recommend look for vertical growth opportunities rather than horizontal, right? So whatever domain you're working in, can you move higher in the ladder, people management role?
That's should be the general thought process. Manish, how to revise while completing another chapter? Manish, मैं ये करता था. What I used to do back in the day is about 15 to 20% of my time allocation was for revision every day. So if I'm studying for, let's say, 200 minutes, about 40 odd minutes I will use for revision. I used to, in fact, time it precisely. 20% was my ratio. And I used to allocate the first 20% of my study time when I'm freshest, when I'm absorbing the most for revision. So let's say today, if I have 4 hours to study, that's about what, 240 minutes. So about 48 minutes I will allocate for revision. And how will I revise? I will revise what I did yesterday, day before yesterday, just build some sort of a structure around my revision. So don't think of revision as a discrete activity कि साल के आखिर में करना है. Think of revision as something that you do on a continuous basis. Harshi, I've appeared level 1 this August, currently seeking internship despite applying for 20 jobs, haven't received any responses. How and where to apply, improve my chances? I'm looking for advice as I don't have any guidance or network. All right, Harshi, then step number one, make sure your CV is in a good place. Kafi, a lot of times I've seen over a period of time, something that's so obvious but people make mistakes. Like recently, I got a little agitated with someone. There was one candidate of FinTree from Bangalore office, Bangalore classroom, who was looking for an opportunity. And he sent me his CV, and I told him, hey, you need to do a lot of work. So please fix your CV and send it to me again. And then he sent it to me again, and I did not get time to check that, right? And then I was talking to one employer and I requested them that, hey, this guy needs job. Can you help out? And he said, sure, CV bhejo. So at the time of sending the CV, I opened it and then I had that moment of disappointment. There's so much of knowledge available on the internet. Why would you not put in efforts to make a good CV? Just do research, right? It's simple hard work. Second, once you have a good CV, you're a fresher, right? So you have to generate opportunities. Let's say you don't have any network, that's okay, but you have internet. That's the biggest network in the world, right? So then start identifying firms in your geography and start reaching out to them. 20 application is not good enough. If I assume that at least 5% of the people will see what you've written, and maybe 20% of those will give you a call. So to get the first call, you'll have to make 100 applications because 100, in fact, 100, 5% will be five. Five people will read your email, 20%, one person will give you a call. So you're not applying enough. In my previous videos, I've said how to apply, where to find databases. So go and refer to some of the previous videos, go and do that, start applying. Also, when you apply, don't write a generic application. Also, don't write 10 paragraph long emails. Okay, again, one of the students this week sent me a really long WhatsApp text. She wanted to take some career decision. Uh, it was about 5 paragraphs, I guess, right? And then I looked at the message and I was like, "Abhi time nahi hai, I can't read this. So let me keep it on hold. I'll read it whenever I can." So had she sent me a TLDR version, too long, did not read, she would have received a faster response. So हम लोग क्या है ना हम we think that we can consume people's time by sending long messages, but you have to understand that the other people on the other side are busy, right? So when you're making job applications, always have a TLDR line uh, and in the intro, right? So you have subject, then TLDR, two-liner. Hey, I'm this. I've done homework on your style of investing. I would really like to work with you. This is the TLDR version. Give me a chance to prove myself, right? And then below that, you write your application. And then make sure your first introduction email is customized every time you apply. So if applying to a particular AMC, tell them this is what I like, this is the reason why I think I would be a good fit, right? So it shows that you're putting in some work and you're not lazy. Because no one likes to work with lazy people. So वो थोड़ा सा आप करो. I'm sure some of the other opportunities will be available. ठीक है, आगे चलते हैं. Uh, I'll take few questions randomly here. I think it's about 12:15, right? All right. Brainstorming with Yash. Where to learn financial modeling from? There's so many types of models. Some courses are free on YouTube. Is it okay to rely on them? Sure, see, brainstorming with Yash, financial modeling is a skill. It's not, there is 10% science, 90% skill, right? So skill क्या होता है? You need to learn to distinguish between like knowledge and skill. Skill is the step that comes after knowledge, where you apply your knowledge multiple times. It's a little bit like driving, right? So you tell me now, what is the best way to learn to drive? The best way to learn to drive is basically by driving, right? And hopefully having an expert instructor sitting next to you who's giving you a feedback. So a good way to learn financial modeling is if you can find some mentor who can help you give specific inputs on, okay, this is what you're doing wrong or this is what you're thinking wrong. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people who would be skilled at financial modeling might not have time to do that. So then you find some courses online where this is demonstrated. Uh, Anything on YouTube, whatever works for you, right? Whatever teacher you feel comfortable with, if Udemy, YouTube, whatever courses you have, वो आप देख सकते हो. Uh, Amit, I'm considering a transition from market research to equity research, investment banking roles. How can I position my market research for this switch? Do you think market research offers better long-term growth than equity research? Market research is a very broad term, Amit. I don't think, I mean, again, it's very generic, but I don't think market research will pay as much as investment banking or equity research after a while. I have a friend who owns a market research company, fairly large size. So वो कभी-कभी मेरे को बताता है, like I've learned from him in terms of how the industry works. Uh, you know, you I think your market research experience will be good in a investment banking role, a front office, middle office. Try contacting middle office boutique investment banks and see if you can generate some sort of an opportunity for yourself there. Anshul कह रहा है मत डर, things will get better. Thank you from your level one batch, August. Thank you, Anshul. So मत डरो, enjoy your studies. Uh, Next question, Danish Sharma this side. Highly appreciate your taking questions of your student viewers every week, answering them with your insightful views. After level one result this week, I'm planning to shift to Pune, join level two coaching at FinTree, also join a job in Pune based on level one result. It will support my monthly expenses. Please help find a job in Pune. Thanks in advance. All right, Danish, see, the system is simple. Get in touch with FinTree team. Uh, we will also be able to help you finding some accommodation, advice on where to stay, all of that, because so many students come. So our team has a good understanding of how to manage these things. Regarding jobs, uh, once you are a FinTree student, you are a part of the FinTree placement program, which runs on broadcast. We do not differentiate, like there's no differentiated treatment for anyone. For everyone, we run a uniform placement program where we'll keep on sending opportunities. But whenever you're in Pune, come and sit with me here. I'll give you some ideas on where to apply, what to do. Hopefully, you would be able to find something. But at least 2 से 3 महीने का ना cash buffer आप बना के आना, right? So don't assume that you would get a job right in the first month. It might take 2 months at least, maybe 3 months, just being conservative. So you should have sufficient cash to be able to take care of your expenses. Okay, I think I think I've taken enough on the comments. Let me take some questions on live YouTube chat box now. All right. Here we go. I'm on the YouTube chat box now. I should be able to answer some of the questions. शुरू करते हैं. Nayan Yadav. If someone wants to enter private equity, do they need to start in investment banking or consulting first? Um, नयन, आईबीसी में चलेगा, कंसल्टिंग से भी ट्रांजिशन होता है. Generally, I know for a fact I've seen a lot of people getting out of management consulting and getting into private equities or VC. And a lot of people, when they say PE, they mean PE, VC both, right? So I'm assuming you mean both. Uh, so consulting to VC or private equity transition is possible. Uh, but again, the entry barrier is you need to have some fancy education on your CV. And I speak about this all the time, right? Uh, and that's true even for your big three consulting firm. Just say I know for a fact if you want to work in McKinsey, Bain, Boston, any of these large consulting firms, generally most of the people will have some very fancy designation on their CV, right? Like I am MBA or some Chicago or that type of MBA. So having some good education will always work out well. Okay. Mauli is asking, what's your view on dynamic asset allocation fund? Yeah. Um, See, I'm not a big fan myself because, I feel like I will try and handle my asset allocation myself. Uh, I don't want a fund manager deciding for me how to do asset allocation based on market timing. Plus, the whole idea of dynamic asset allocation fund is a fund manager saying, "Hey, I have ability to time the market because I can figure out when to enter equities and when to exit equities." But honestly, no one knows, right? So therefore, again, investing is more about behavior than about intelligence. So you all that you need to do is have a long-term path, जिसको finance में हम लोग कहते हैं strategic asset allocation. So you decide that fine, depending on my age and level of risk and the assets I have, liabilities I have, maybe 70% equity, 30% debt allocation, right? And then you keep that 70%, keep that 70% allocation in equity intact, irrespective of how the markets are. Don't try to time the markets. That's why SIP is such a magical thing. It's going to make a lot of money for people who are disciplined for a long period of time. So there will be times in the next 10, 15, 20 years when markets will be too expensive, too cheap, crash, crisis. We will again have COVID-like situation. It's going to happen, right? That's the market cycle. Next time कुछ अलग आएगा. COVID नहीं आएगा, something else will come. So then what do I do in situations like these? What I do is I have discipline that every month, this is my allocation. Every month, X amount of my salary, I will keep on investing into equities and then I will let them compound, right? That's what I would do. Uh, in again, general, not a big fan of, this dynamic asset allocation. I'm also not big fan of having too many mutual funds in the portfolio. I just don't see the point. I mean, I see people diversifying across mutual funds. I think that's the most nonsensical thing to do. And I'm no offense to all the wealth managers attending the session today, but recommending client कि boss आप ये 5 mutual fund खरीद लो is a big circus, right? Why is that a circus? Each mutual fund will have 30, 40 stocks. You're recommending client 5 mutual funds, वो 200 stock का portfolio लेके बैठा है, right? How is your client going to beat the market and make money? So a lot of these wealth guys are protecting themselves, not really working in the best interest of the client. So in general, you want to be a little smart about these things. ठीक है, आगे. Mohit Garg, I'm preparing for level 1, 26-year-old. How can I learn how to do loan work of clients where help them getting home loan, business loan? Also, how can I learn this work? Mohit, actually, honestly, ये काफी आसान है. These guys are called DSA, direct sales agent. Go to nearest LIC office, tell them आपको DSA बनना है. There will be sales guys who will tell you all the insights, tell you how to fetch clients, what to do, how to do documentation. आप 2-3 बार करोगे, you'd make mistakes, you'd learn. It's simple. And surprisingly, like perception wise, Mohit, जो DSA जो होता है ना, direct sales agent. So when finance people look at them, we look them a little down. It's like अच्छा ये commission agent है. But it's actually it can be a very profitable business. And how I learned this in FinTree's previous office at Bhandarkar Road. Uh, our office was on the first floor. It's a पुराना सा छोटा सा building था. On the ground floor, there was a DSA. I happened to go and talk to this guy once because we're in the same industry. So I was like, "Hi, hello, what's happening?" Neighbors. And then I learned this guy was doing like crazy, crazy business, right? The triple digit crore type of revenue. I'm not saying loan value by doing DSA business. So it can be profitable. It is scalable. Of course, you'll have to learn with the basics and then build on top of it. All right. I'll take last two or three questions on the let's do ABC. You should upload level 2 revision lectures on YouTube. It will be helpful to a lot of people. Will promote your normal paid ones. Believe me, it will be helpful for both. ABC, we have put in some of the revision lectures on YouTube, and I think towards every exam we upload few more. So we will be uploading. We just not putting the whole content. Uh, and it would be unreasonable to expect us to put because that's how we monetize, right? So we will not be able to put 100% of the content on YouTube, but we have been putting a lot of good, useful content on YouTube. If you look at some of the crash course videos that we put on level 2, I feel like those are really, I mean, I personally was very happy when I looked at that content. So you'd enjoy them, have a look at them. Is there a way to manage other portfolios with SEBI registered? हाँ आप RI का license ले लो. Once you get RI license, you should be able to manage portfolios. Uh, and then otherwise, if you want to do mutual fund, you can do ARN, become a distributor. Just Google a little bit. There are plenty of SEBI options available. Please reply, sir. Is there an overlap in course content between Masters in Finance and Level 2 course? Uh, Masters in Finance and Level 2 course. काफी होता है. Pranav, काफी होता है. There's a lot of repeating. If you do Masters in Finance after CFA, no, your incremental learning curve is not so great. That is true. There will be overlap. Will CFA be helpful in consulting field? Yes. Financial consulting, yes. Management consulting, not necessary. I mean, depends. Then management consulting, because within that there's so many micro segments. But in general, any financial consulting, CFA 100%. I have worked in consulting space myself in the past. So फायदा तो होता है. Though for a short period of time, but consulting, CFA will definitely help. अर्नव हो गया. उत्कर्ष, शुभ नवरात्रि सर. शुभ नवरात्रि उत्कर्ष. 40 days from level 2 roller coaster now. One day it feels like I'm going to pass. The second day it feels like it is so tough, hoping for the best. उत्कर्ष देखो यार, ये मतलब मैं आपको थोड़ा ज्ञान दे दूंगा अभी, but I know it's difficult to do. Uh, I'll tell you what the way to think, Utkarsh. At least I really tried doing this is switch away from thinking of results and focus on process. Not easy, but you can train yourself to do it. So 40 days left, have a 40-day plan and every day tunnel vision कि आज का target खत्म करेंगे, and then associating reward to process rather than reward to outcome. Okay, what I mean by this is पास होने से खुशी मिलने की जगह मेहनत करने से खुशी मिलना अगर आपको शुरू हो जाए ना, तो ये काफी आसान हो जाता है ना. और ये आई थिंक दिस टेक्निक कैन बी अप्लाइड इन एवरीथिंग एल्स इन लाइफ, है ना. इट डजंट ऑलवेज हैव टू बी लाइक जस्ट एग्जाम. मतलब कैन आई लर्न टू get satisfaction out of the process that I'm following, rather than getting that happiness from the results. So for me personally, let's say I've been kind of trying really hard to get fit and trying to lift weight for last few months. Now, if I So I have some end goal in mind, right? So if I say that, okay, uh, if I have this particular body metric, this body fat percentage, then I will be happy. Then if I keep that in mind, it will become very difficult for me to follow on process. But if I draw my happiness from the fact that, hey, I'm really putting in the work every day, right? And if I'm doing that, and if I focus on process, आसान हो जाएगा. So that's the game. That love, like focus on the process, not on the results. Okay, all right. One or two questions. Let me check. What can I take? When will the FinTree Level 3 crash course available for Feb 25? It was helpful in L1, L2 journey. Harshit, good news. I've started recording it, but I don't have a timeline on when will I finish it. The Level 3 crash course, काफी, it's not easy to record because there's so much of theory that I'm trying to squeeze in less period of time. But there is a high probability it will be available. You will get to know, I think, by January 15th if we are going to launch it for Feb or not. We're definitely launching it for August attempt. But Feb, I'm not sure होगा कि नहीं होगा. Devansh, sir, ये बताओ. I just passed level 1. I'm unsure whether to start working or focus on level 2. I'm 22. काम करो भाई Devansh. Uh, I say this all the time. Please do not sit back at home and study full time. That's the most stupid thing you can do with your career. Experience is always greater than education. जो आप काम में सीखोगे वो आप बुक पढ़ के क्लासरूम में मेरे जैसे लोगों का ज्ञान सुन के आप नहीं सीखोगे. You have to work. Uh, so even if at the cost of not passing level 2 in the first attempt, even if at the cost of delaying your attempt by 6 months, it's okay. But make sure you get some experience. All right. Last question. Wrapping it up. Uh, top three flexi cap mutual funds according to you. मेरे को तीन तो पता ही नहीं है वे कौन फंड मैनेजर क्या चला रहा है बट आई टेल यू हाउ विल आई इवैल्यूएट अ फंड मैनेजर ये मैं शायद पहले भी बोला था बिकॉज आई विल नॉट टेल यू एन आंसर यू हैव टू डू योर ओन वर्क और गेट अ कंसल्टेंट आई एम अज्यूमिंग यू आर फाइनेंस स्टूडेंट आप मेहनत करो ना यार सो फर्स्ट थिंग यू लुक एट इज व्हाट इज द philosophy of the fund right us not asset management company or that particular fund uh, do not look at past results. Okay, like thinking that this fund has outperformed in the last 1 year, last 2 year. There is in fact no, there is in fact a lower probability that the funds which have outperformed in the last certain period will outperform again in the next period. So वो नहीं चाहिए आपको. What you want is basically A, what's the philosophy? B, what is the consistency of the stocks with the stated philosophy? Because fund manager is saying, hey, we are a value oriented fund और वो growth खरीद रहा है. I know you look at the stocks. So you look at what is the consistency of that implementation of that philosophy. And third, you look at data points for last 10 odd years and see how the fund has performed in bull markets and bear markets. Right? So we have these ratios called drawdown captures. So have a look at that. You never want a fund which is currently in the top quartile of all the funds, but when it goes down very bad. मतलब अच्छा तो बहुत अच्छा, खराब तो बहुत खराब, because that high volatility actually reduces your CAGR. So I would rather look for fund which is in the middle quartile, but consistently there in the middle. You would be surprised to know if you take 15, 20 years of data, and if you look at a mutual fund which is in the middle, right? Not outperformer, not bad performer, but in the middle. तो अगर वो कोई 15-20 साल से consistently if some fund is in the middle, you would be surprised if I take 20-year horizon and then map performance, this fund in the middle which is consistent will actually be in the top quartile on a 20-year performance data. This is phenomenal, right? Statistics. So what you want is you want consistency of performance, and that's the fund I would select. In general, this is no secret. I've spoken about Parag Parikh. I like because uh, A, they have the courage. to be wrong. So they bought ITC when it was a meme stock, right? Right. These days the meme stock is HDFC Bank. So they had to courage to buy these stocks when no one else was buying. B, they have the conviction to hold on because ITC did not work almost a year after that purchase, but they were holding on to that stock. So they have the conviction. So I like the philosophy of that fund, but I'm sure there are a lot of other good fund managers that I do not know of, right? And for that, you'll have to do some research on your own. All right. Hopefully मैं आपके काफी क्वेश्चन आंसर कर पाया हूँ. Uh, हर सैटरडे ये होता है कि कुछ क्वेश्चंस आंसर नहीं, लाइक सम ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस हैव नॉट बीन एबल टू आंसर एंड माय अपॉलॉजीज फॉर दैट. My request to you, whatever questions I could not answer today, if you can leave them in the comments of this video. This video will be live, a few minutes after I end the session now. So if you can leave them in the comments, then I will make sure that I try and answer them in the next AMA session. Okay, so once again, happy Dashera to all of you. Uh, Thank you very much for your precious time today. Keep on learning, keep on enjoying the process. You and me, we are lucky that we get to study finance, right? Because it's such an evolving, such a beautiful subject. To study finance is to study everything. क्योंकि फाइनेंस पढ़ना है तो जियोपॉलिटिक्स जानना है, फाइनेंस पढ़ना है तो बिजनेसेस जानना है. You want to study finance, you don't need to know history. You need to know finance, you need to know psychology. It's such a beautiful amalgamation of all the subjects. So you and me, we are lucky, and let's hope we keep on celebrating this subject together. So thank you very much. I will see you same time next week, and I will take your questions on the comment section.